I'm so excited about this, I can hardly contain it. I have a question for you. What are you treasuring? Is there anything that you've heard in your life that you're just treasuring in your heart? And then my other question for you is, have you ever heard something that completely blew your mind? It left you on the edge of your seat with more questions than answers. If you've experienced this, what did you do after you received the information? Now, if you're like most people, you may have rushed to share what you heard with a close friend or relative. But rushing to share or discuss heavy matters is not always the best course of action. When I think about how to process major information, I'm drawn to the example of Mary in the Bible. On more than one occasion, Mary received information that left her puzzled. For instance, when she learned that she would bear a child conceived of the Holy Ghost, she asked God's angel, "How can this be?" She didn't rush to tell friends or family. She didn't immediately call her BFF and say, "Girl, you won't believe what happened." She went to the source and she asked the angel, "How can this be?" Later in the Bible, in this same verse of Luke 2, we learn that when she heard weighty things, she had a habit of treasuring them in her heart. When she eventually shared the news about her pregnancy, she shared it with a close relative, so she had discernment on who she spoke to. She was careful and she was discerning. Let me offer a few other examples that kind of illustrate how Mary handled it. So after Jesus' birth, shepherds came to see Jesus, and then they publicized his birth to the surrounding community. We learn in Luke 2:19 that Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. And if you read further into Luke, we learn that when Jesus was 12 years old, he stayed in Jerusalem even as his parents continued to their home. When they realized that Jesus was not with them, they returned to Jerusalem, and they found him in the temple, sitting among the doctors and teachers and asking them questions. No doubt exasperated, Mary later asked Jesus, "Why did you stay behind?" And she was no doubt scared. And he said that he had to tend to his father's business. We learn in Luke 2:51 that Mary treasured these things in her heart. So once again, we see Mary confronted with information that was mind-bending, and she responded by treasuring the information in her heart. Rather than immediately going to someone else, she reflects on it, she holds it, she values it, and then she's likely discussing it with God. In doing so, she's protecting the information that she heard, but she's also creating space for God to speak to her. What would happen if you and I follow this example? Now, I don't know about you, but I've made the mistake of sharing too much too soon or sharing too much with the wrong person. In sharing, I may have been seeking validation or perhaps trying to make a connection. But the ultimate person whom we need validation from and connection with is God. So why aren't we going to God in the first place? When we share too much too soon, or when we share information with people who don't have the capacity to process what we're saying, we can rouse jealousy or allow our plans to be sabotaged. I think about Joseph, who was loved by his father, and he kept having dreams, and he kept telling his brothers, and his brothers already didn't like him, about the dreams that he was having. And as he shared these dreams, he invited further scorn and hatred from his brothers. What would have happened if he would have used more discernment? And so again, as you receive different weighty matters and information that's really puzzling, or maybe it's really exciting, think about how you hold that to yourself, and then pray about who you talk to and when you speak to them. If you like this content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share.